It's not that often I start one of my week ahead videos talking about a feeling that we should brace ourselves, buckle up, and get ready for some world event that may kind of shake things up quite a bit. But that's probably this week ahead. And we're talking about the week of June the 9th to about the 15th. And what we're talking 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, yes, 9 to the 15th. What we're talking about is Mars square Uranus, which is always going to bring us into contact with something shocking, maybe something brutal, something black swan, something unexpected, something that really is a little bit like the Tower card in the tarot. And I did a little bit of research to find out what it might be about, and I've come up with some ideas. So we'll be talking today about how this might affect the United States, particularly J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, or the nation of Iran. And we'll also talk about you. You are a person living through this week ahead, and you begin to feel this Mars square Uranus building up as early as Tuesday, Mars Day, and kind of crescendoing out by next Monday. So it is a whole week dominating energy field. Yes, we start the week at the tail end of a Venus sextile to Pluto as kind of culminating as we open the week out. And that's a lot of stuff like this Aubrey Marcus podcast scandal about polyamory and radical monogamy. It's the P. Diddy trial stuff. It's the hockey players in Canada accused of sexual misconduct, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on. Pluto, Venus, fatal attraction, toxic love, scandals around, not scandals, but the dark side of sexual energy, how and power and control. But that's finishing up, and Mars and Uranus have nothing to do with that. It's something entirely different. Now, we did cover already information about the Sagittarius moon that's coming up, which happens to be at the bending of the south node of fate. I'll talk briefly about that Sagittarius lunation in our week ahead astrology, but what I really focused on is the increasing intensity as we build up for the sort of Friday, Saturday, Sunday epicenter of Mars squaring Uranus on Algol, a star of decapitation, a star of calamity as to do with rotting bodies and corpses. I know it's a heavy topic, guys. I know, I get that. And Mars is the bad guy. I can't say certain words here on YouTube, but I want to make up some words for that. So pew pew, the sound that you make when you do something like this, or things to do with G dot 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 O CIDE, or things to do with MAS. I'll just say massacre, and also when you're unalived by somebody's ill intention. So trying for code words, especially in the beginning of a video when YouTube will suppress it for a non-user friendly, non-ad friendly content. But I will say to you, it tends to me to look like it's going to be only hindsight is 2020. I would be really surprised if we end up looking back on this week from next Monday's vantage point, and I'll be putting this video out on Monday the 9th, that we won't have seen some kind of event occur. The worst condition here would be like a black swan event of some sort, something completely outside the bounds of what we thought was going to be, part of reality, that could say unsettle the stock markets, unsettle global economic markets temporarily, at least. Some of those black swan events, everything crashes and then it bounces back up, but it may not be anything to do with the markets per se. The fundamentals of the markets are not necessarily great with the tariff situation, the tail end of a very tired bull run for the last decade. On the other hand, what I'm talking about may not be intrinsically involved with market fundamentals, but rather something to do with a world event that gets everybody antsy and scared about, security, economy, known variables. Stock market does not like unknown variables. So we'll talk about that this week ahead. First thing first, I'm not a financial astrologer, so this is for entertainment purposes only, but hi guys, I'm Lori Lothing. I forgot to say hello. I use the Western tropical zodiac astrology. It's not the sidereal or Vedic. We often add fixed stars and minor asteroids into the mix. That's how, before the Pope passed away, about a week before, I suggested maybe there'd be a funeral for the Pope. He was still alive and well. That was based on an asteroid called Requiem, which is connected to funerals, and the rest of the chart, which was very pointed at him. And in that light, I'll also say that when I was suggesting perhaps in early July of 2024, that Donald Trump may be in harm's way from an unaliving attempt around July 15th. So I probably predicted that maybe about 8 or 10 days before that happened. It was because of a sky story that's happening now. Right. It's at Mars and Uranus really close to his storyline that is back in gameplay orientation in a different way than it was in July, but also activating the event he had not only in July when there was a conjunction between Mars and Uranus, right? But other elements of that sky are also somewhat historically repeating. So I will say to you that there is a chance of that something coming off. It doesn't even have to be that he is going to be back in harm's way, but that President Donald Trump and the story of July and what happened in July may come to our attention in a fundamental way, simply because we are taking an opening square from the conjunction of July 2025, July 15th, where Mars and Uranus co-joined on fixed star Algol on top of the sky on Donald Trump's midheaven. And that now this is the opening square from that conjunction. It took a long time because of retrogradation of Mars in the sign of Cancer and Leo, that it will be now ripening in some way into like the first sprouting fruits or the first shoot from beneath the soil of what this is all about. So, for example, disclosures about what really happened. Who was that shooter? Why wasn't surveillance and security up and running? What really happened? That could be something that could be about the shock here. But I think there's something bigger than that. One thing about it, I did some tracking history. I'm going to show you what the other element is. Plagues and weather. This is a very plagues and weather related Mars-Uranus cycle, and I'll show you why. So, and then we'll talk about your sign. Now, for your sign, I don't want to scare you. I'm not going to get you all tied up in knots about it. I'm going to keep it simple. There can be a surprise element, something that you didn't see coming, something that may feel a little shocking, surprising, or unexpected, and that you may have to go full on Mars regarding it. What is full on Mars? Well, you're going to make actions, take decisions urgently. You're going to be in a superhero mode, action taking mode. You're going to be in a crisis conflict that requires immediate attention, perhaps in some area of your life. It could be any area. It could be your work. It could be your animals, your pets, your money. I don't know, but I'll read it for you when we get to your sign. I had a comment recently on my channel. Well, nothing you say ever comes true for me, or you're always a Pollyanna. I'm not a Pollyanna. I talk about the negative, but nothing will all come true for you for sure. And general bell curve astrology, we're just giving you a whole sign. Of course, it can't be everyone has exactly the same thing just because you share a sign with people. This is not even remotely logical, right? You're going to get a general tendency of what may happen for your sign. I suggest you listen for your rising sign. Some of you listen to your sun sign and go, nothing's turning out. Well, that's because your sun sign may not be the most accurate. Why? Well, because when you were born and you were slicing into reality, someone checked the time maybe, and they said, oh, here comes this baby on the eastern horizon line at the time of birth. If I plumb lined it, and looked out to the east in the western tropical symbolic zodiac, there was a sign, Aries, Taurus, Gemini on the eastern horizon at the time of your birth. The sign represents your character in the game of life. It is your avatar in a game. It is your simulation avatar. So you will look like it, act like it, and play the role of it. You have all the equipment of your avatar, right? Leos have courage, big hair, big beards. Look at Trump and Vance. Cancers are shell-like creatures that poke at people that get in their way because they are easily offended, or because they're very defensive, but they're very compassionate, empathic, and loving and motherly archetypally. So that's your character that you play. But your sun sign is your deeper soul. It's the essence of who you are. It is the game player, not the character that the player plays. It is the actor, actress, not the character that the actor, actress plays. So it's the deeper essence of you. I'm an Aries sun. I'm fire. I'm the fire flavor of God. Just like you have a prism of white light from a rainbow, prismatically becoming many colors. We have 12 colors of the zodiac, 12 signs of the zodiac in different elements of air, earth, and water and fire. You are one of those at the deepest essence of your divine spark. If you're living from your sun, which happens before the age of 7, for most people, kids are living their sun energy out fully, or after they've matured and moved away from the character, then yes, your sun sign may be very accurate. My sun sign is more accurate these days, sometimes in my Aquarian character. But if you're just living blindly, an unexamined life, just doing the character, you forget that you're the actor playing the character, then of course, your rising sign from 90% of you is going to be more accurate. So please find your rising sign. I'm not going to go into any more detail. Don't know what it is. In the description box below, you can learn how to cast your chart in whole sign houses. But in doing so, you also learn how to find your rising sign. Caveat, you need to know your time of birth. Now, let's get started. And your moon sign is how you feel about things in your life. And it's also matters to do with your home. And sometimes your sun can represent your career and purpose, but your rising sign is a circumstantially most accurate element of anything and everything that could happen to you in this simulation. All right. So I'm recording this on June the 3rd, Tuesday, for my Patreon community. Gets everything early access, ad free. And if you want to check my description box below, I'm teaching a course on finding your ideal career in your natal chart. You know, what do you want to do when you grow up, really? And that course description is below. It's only $33, unless you're a member of my Patreon community, and then you have various discounts. And I'm teaching Sky Reader in July. Come on and join me. Be your own astrologer, time your best life. Love to see you there. We're starting in the July I don't remember the date, 13th, 14th, somewhere around there. We're running for 6 weeks. I've taught this class. This will be my 6th time teaching it. Love the class, love the program. I always add new content. I always have guest teachers as well. You get so much value for your money. You won't be disappointed. I'm hoping you'll come join me in July. In the description box below is all the information you need to know about that course. So let's get talking about this gnarly sky ahead. And I want to show you a picture first, and then we'll talk about the sky. I want to show you an interesting cycle. And I hope this is not boring for you, but I'm a teaching astrologer. That's the value of timestamps. You can jump ahead to your sign, and you don't have to wait for me to finish. I guess I could have brushed my hair before I started. Let's get going. There's my screenshot. Take a look at this with me, would you? So I want to explain the idea of Uranus and Mars in what we call a synodic cycle. Basically, Uranus moves through a sign every 84 years, and then Mars is moving through a sign every 2 years. And in essence, roughly, usually every 84 years, Mars begins to conjunct Uranus or meet with Uranus in the sky anywhere from 3 times to 5 times in any given segment. So in 87 years, along comes Uranus into a sign and stays there for about 7 years. And in that 7-year period, Mars and Uranus keep meeting 3 to 5 times within 7 years. So in our current time frame, this cycle began when Mars and Uranus joined together in May of 2018, when Uranus entered Taurus in May of 2018. Okay. That's what happened. And Mars is leaving Uranus completely next year. Okay. So there's this like 2018 to 2026 timeframe of Mars going through Uranus going through the sign of Taurus, or Uranus going through the sign of Taurus. And during that time, there were 3 times, or will have been 3 times, that Mars and Uranus co-join. I think it was January of 2021, August 1st of 2022. It was January 20th, I think, of 2021, August 1st or so of 2022, and July 15th of 2023, Mars and Uranus joined together. Okay, electric cattle prod of shock and awe each of these times. And this is all we get, 3 touch points in that synodic cycle of the conjunctions. And from the conjunctions, Mars continues to move forward from Taurus. And when he gets to 90 degrees or 3 signs away and he gets into Leo, he forms a square called the opening square. So the opening square is important. It's going to really give us a clue of what the deep meaning and impact we can expect from the original conjunction, with a kind of testing or seed. The shoot of the plant is coming up from beneath the earth. It's like a first quarter moon. In this chart that I'm showing you, you'll see that in 1934, 1936, 1938, and 1940, Mars was making the opening square from the conjunction that had happened several months earlier. And the interesting part of this story then is what was going on during the squares in the sign of Taurus in 34 to 1940. And actually that means till 1942. Well, because every time, roughly you're going to give the conjunctions a 2-year run. But what we had going on in 1934, let's say to roughly 1942, was with the Dust Bowl. We had extreme, dry, hot weather in the prairies across North America, not just the United States, which extraordinary drought and dust storms decimated farming, caused poverty, it was the beginning of a new social services measures for people who were in deep trouble. It's really, it's the grapes of wrath, of mice and men, I think, of mice and men time era. So this great Dust Bowl climate thing was a thing, as well as a Great Depression that unfolded from the stock market crashes in the 1920s, late 1920. However, I have noticed that the stock market story is not normally connected to the Taurus cycle. Okay, I'll just give you that. Market corrections, for example, happened in 2007 and 2008 when Mars was in the sign of Gemini, a sign connected to commerce and marketing, for it's ruled by Mercury, squaring a sign Pisces connected to trade and international trade. And in 2007 and 8, when those squares were happening, we went into the beginning of the global financial crisis from the subprime loan scandal and the failure of Lehman Marcus Bank. So basically, Mars in Gemini connected to, sorry, did I get that right? Mars and Gemini connected to Uranus and Pisces has been, for example, associated with market turbulence per se, or economic upsets per se. For example, right? Just an example. I think this is a weather story, 1934 to 1940, 2019 to 2025, 26. Why? Because we see back in the Dust Bowl era, droughts and dust storms and decimation of the growing lands of the prairies or the plains or whatever you guys call it in the United States, the Great Plains, the Great Prairies, whatever. Now, it went all the way down to the Florida Panhandle in the 1930s. It wasn't just in the interior. There was a huge extreme weather events everywhere. Mars dries things out. Mars is hot. Mars is heated. He's in Leo. He's super hot. So we have the heat factor. What do we have since 2019 up to this date? Wildfires. Right now, I predicted a high wildfire season, and it's burning up like crazy all over the middle of Canada in our prairie provinces as we speak. You in New Jersey had some earlier. This would be mid-April to mid-June when Mars was in Leo, period. He's hot, very, very hot, and he's burning things up. But now he's going to square Uranus, and we could have a shocking weather event to do with heat, maybe drought, maybe fires. Uranus is in Taurus, the sign of Earth. And what we can also see is catastrophic Earth events like volcanoes. Mars is heat, Taurus is Earth, like earthquakes that set off fires. These are just examples. I'm not trying to be extra cheerful here. And you'll notice, because told him a Pollyanna, and you'll notice in 2019 and 21, we begin to have a lot of wildfires, extreme wildfires, even not even just wildfires, shocking events like the cathedral in Paris burning down, Notre Dame, these sorts of things, the whole fires that we had in Los Angeles and Pacific Palisades, extreme shocking events regarding fires, whether they're arson fires or natural fires, it does not matter. This is a story that we're going to continue to see. So it is possible that one of the things this Mars square Uranus could bring up is just something like a classically intense world fire event or some kind of new, shocking flammable volcanic storyline of something. A volcano going off would be a perfect example. But you'll see the cycles here that are going back and forth as Mars is squaring from Leo, Uranus in Taurus, or Uranus in the sign of the water sign of Scorpio. We're not going to cover that now because we're not in that cycle. The other thing I like to tell you is this. You'll never see Mars being like Mr. UN peacekeeper, right? He's a god of war. And so you'll see anything that shocks you to do with land and war coming up this week ahead. Anything that looks like a shocking atrocity story could be heavy on our radar. Does that surprise you? Given that since 2019, we've had so much atrocity and war, right? We have the Russia-Ukraine war, we have the war in the Middle East, and shocking atrocity after another is becoming available to us on our feeds, visibly watched. You can't be shocked if you don't know it's happening, right? And Mars and Uranus are showing us it's happening. We're witnessing it. We're seeing it on our TVs, who's on TV anymore, on our devices. All right, so plagues. Mars rules plagues. So back in the day, like back in the 1930s to early 1940, there was a bunch of polio outbreaks, atypical polio called encephalitic polio. So polio was trending big time. And there was a kind of a lot of polio because Mars rules plagues in the news cycle back then. And there was another illness back then besides polio, influenza epidemics. So we had influenza epidemics 1936, 1937, 1940, 41, and we had polio going all over the place, including something called atypical polio, which I didn't know what it was, but it had different symptoms. It was called myalgic encephalomyelitis, and that was a big pandemic in 1934. That was during the Mars in Leo square Uranus and Taurus. So don't forget, it is Earth stuff, and it is about the everyday world of our bodies when we talk about Earth and shock and surprise and Mars's plagues. And there was also typhus outbreaks. I think typhus is like typhoid as well. So there's a lot going on then. And now we have the latest strain constantly of the C virus, but also we have measles making a new resurgence in various places in the world. So we can expect maybe, I hope not, it may not be specific to this week that there's a plague story trending, but anything is possible. We had an eclipse in Virgo. That's about health matters. That could trigger some plaguey stories as well from the March 14th eclipse, which is still playing out over the next few months. So I would say, hopefully we don't come up with a plague story. Hopefully we don't have too much trouble with the weather, the climate, and Earth events. But these are my thoughts about this week ahead. And lastly, certainly with Donald Trump having his ascendant at 29 degrees, I'll show you the chart of Leo, and having this really looking like it's right on top of his chart. I don't know what to say. People have been all over me about, oh, but you said that Donald Trump was in trouble in Beware the Ides of April or something. I said anytime between about mid-April till mid-June, actually, in many videos, he was in like a bit of a tough space based on an ongoing Uranus pressure to his midheaven. And also now we have Mars in the mix, which makes it even more intense. I want to show you the chart before we do your sign. Of course, now that I'm trying to pull the chart up, it's not pulling up. Now I always do an outro to my channel. If you don't know what an outro is, I used to call it extra. I'm just rambling about something going on in my world. I'm going to tell you an amazing story about when you're in divine flow and what synchronicity can look like. And I'm just trying to cheer you on that, the devil is in the synchronistic love details. Oh, and asteroids. And I'll talk about minor asteroids later too. Okay. Well, I'm having like a tech failure. Give me a sec while my software won't open up. All right, got it going, guys. By a miracle. How to restart the software. Here we have it. This is just kind of want you to see how tight this is. This is on June 14th, Saturday. And you know that June 14th is Donald Trump's birthday. And so on his birthday, on his solar return, you're going to notice that Mars is sitting at 28 degrees on top of his ascendant by 1 degree and squaring Uranus at 28 degrees. That's 2 degrees off his ascendant, or maybe a little bit more, but it's also close enough to count on fixed star Algol. So ascendant midheaven here is about, for Donald Trump, is about matters to do with career and public reputation and things he does in the visible public eye, like getting up on a stand and doing a Make America Great rally when he was, almost unalived. So anything he's doing in the public view, but he's got some protection from Venus here. So I don't think it could be that bad. I'm hopeful because I don't like anything bad to happen to anybody. Like, people are people, right? Until their time is naturally up. Harm coming to others through malicious intent is not my cup of tea. And over here is Mars. Now Mars is like just behind his ascendant. You can almost make it a categorical semi-house of hospitals, and or isolation, and there's a possibility, therefore, that he's going to get into some health challenges of some sort, whether they're of natural causes or not. I can't tell you. I do not know what this is. JD Vance has a similar setup in his chart right now. Iran is a Leo rising, and the 10th house of its leadership would be involved in the Taurus sky. So shocking stories with Iran are up our sleeve, so to speak, as well. Unfortunately and sadly, hopefully nothing too dramatic through the ill intentions of the nation of I in the Middle East. So with the unavailability of the United States to get a leash on the pit bull. So we'll see what happens. But there literally is a lot of shock and awe here. And when we see things like massacres, and when we see things like mass shootings. I'm saying the words anyway. I'm too deep into the video. I don't think it'll cause algorithmic smushing. I think that's very Mars-Uranus as well. But for it to get into the markets and under the seat of the markets, the New York Stock Exchange has its sun on this place where Uranus sits, really. So it can really rattle the United States Stock Exchange very much in particular. And algol means decapitation, off with the head, whether you lose one's head of state power or whether you lose your head literally. For when Donald Trump was almost unalive, the bullet passed by his ear, and that could have definitely unheaded him, beheaded him, so to speak, not just metaphorically from power or potential rise to power, but literally, So these are intense stories. This is an intense week. This is not the fun week of the month for anybody. However, we're all human beings and we don't have everything bad happening all at once. This is how it looks on Saturday. So it's building up as early as Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's starting to become a thing and you're going to notice it. Now, sometimes I pull an asteroid out if it really grabs my attention. So let me just grab a couple of them to show you a few little asteroid narratives, and then we'll go ahead and do your sign. Yes, I am. Okay, so this event is happening exactly around 5 a.m. on Sunday in Washington, D.C., when the square between Mars and Uranus is going to connect. Exactly. I noticed in real life that Mars activates the story not on and after the conjunction, but before by up to 3 to 6 days. In other words, the grand finale is Sunday, June the 15th, around, 5:52 a.m. in Washington, D.C., when we see Mars at 28 degrees and 54 minutes, and we also see Uranus at 28 degrees and 54 minutes. I'll give you the Sabian symbol in a minute for the Mars, but before I do, I want to show you the minor asteroids. I think we're going to have a weather event this week ahead because Sila Nunam, a weather god asteroid, is here. He was the sky god who was in charge of the weather, and his wife was the mother earth goddess in charge of the earth. And so it's Sila and Nunam, or whatever. And so this is an Eskimo story, or the Inuit people of, the Great North. And so we're going to see a weather event. It's probable because the asteroids are extremely literal. So I suggest there's a weather event at the very least. Most likely Sky God is involved, and so is Earth Mother herself, Mars, etc. Uranus shock, surprises. But we may also have an Earth event that involves a flood because Isis is with Uranus in the Earth sign of Taurus. This is a sign of the earth. This is shock and awe. Now, Venus is protecting it. I think I mentioned this in another video. So, for example, there's an earthquake and then there's a tsunami, but everyone is above ground and they escape harm. And very few people are harmed by the water or the flooding that result from an event that is to do with extreme weather, for example. So, I don't know, to me, having Uranus and a anoretic, turbulent degree version of Isis, who flooded the Nile River Valley, is not so hot. But I think that Venus co-present can soothe the worst of it out. That's my hope anyway. What else can I see in the sky going on at the very same time that the weather god is with Mars, squaring the flooding goddess herself, Isis, and also connected to shocking Earth events? Well, we have some other stories going on the sideline. I think it's kind of worth mentioning. You never know what it might actually mean. So let's talk about it. This is the asteroid over here that is all about the Sphinx. I got to make sure I got that right. Sometimes I forget my minor asteroids. 90% sure that's what it is. So let me stop the annotation. It is the Sphinx. Okay. Well, that's Egypt, right? Remember they found something underneath it, under the Sphinx, and they thought, oh my God, there's like capacitors and there's thousands of feet of strange objects under the Sphinx, under one of the pyramids in Giza. Well, anyway, here we have the Sphinx. I wouldn't talk about the Sphinx at 26 degrees of Capricorn if it wasn't connected to the shock and awe of Uranus, connected as well to the Isis, which is an Egyptian goddess. So we may have some shocking things coming out of Egypt. It doesn't have to be about the Sphinx. I know you're thinking, why not? Well, it could be. But what is Egypt? It's the border of Rafah. What is Rafah? It is Gaza. So we'll see some shocking stories to do with Egypt or the Middle East as a possibility during this week ahead. And of course, that would be also connected to the war situation in the Middle East itself. So Who knows what that is? Let's see what it is. Maybe a military offensive by Egypt, which seems unlikely, but if they had backing from Saudi Arabia or somebody else, they might go for it. We'll see what happens. Who the heck knows? Now, the second thing that I see going on here, I see the possibility of something in America falling from the sky. The sun of the United States sits right here on Sirius, the dog star. And in the solar return chart for last year's birthday chart for Donald Trump, he also has the sun on Sirius, the dog star, at 14 degrees of Cancer. So his solar return chart is replicating, not his sun, his ascendant. I do apologize. In his solar return chart for his last year's birthday, which ends this June 14th, he has his ascendant, which is his body, on the dog star in the United States chart. Donald Trump, therefore, has a possibility of being very in difficult circumstances physically because his temporary Cancer ascendant is on the sun of the United States, which is why he is now prime minister, president. And which is rare. This is a freak-offy way, but I should have used it to call Trump's win. That his solar return ascendant was on the dog star and the sun of the United States of America indicates his identity becomes leaderful and connected to the United States very profoundly. Icarus is falling from the sky because his wings melt. How can Donald Trump fall from the sky because his wings are melting? Let me know in the comments what you think that might be like this week ahead. Just let me know. I'd love to hear. And over here is Zeus. Zeus is the king of Mount Olympus at the malefic 22nd degree of the sign of Pisces. You could say a lot of things about that. I don't care. It's like whatever. It could be a Pisces leader, a Pisces nation. It could still relate to the situation with America and its leadership. And then you can see over here, the South Node sitting here with Clotho, one of the three spinners of fate. And she spun the fabric for the spinners of fate, for the lives of mortal men. And so the lives of mortal men and the thread from which they are spun with some wings that are melting and falling, maybe, and Zeus on Mount Olympus all entangled into it. Long story short, a leader of some country or some person of power does not have to be Donald Trump, may be falling from power, and it may be shocking. For example, in the nation of Israel, its 10th house is the house of its leaders in power. It could be something as simple as that. Also, the sun of Israel is in the Taurus area where Uranus is sitting. Shocking things to do with the nation of Israel this week. Nobody would be surprised by that. Can we get any more shocked at another food aid distribution center being targeted? So there's a few more massacres. Let's keep going with that story. And what else can I say without you all unsubscribing? I'm just sitting on this for a second. I know I'm never quiet. I don't think, for example, someone like Nettanyahou with a Sagittarius sun, a Sagittarius rising, is necessarily in trouble, but his ascendant degree is really close to the Sagittarius full moon that's happening on June the 11th. And therefore, his identity is in a full moon energy, squaring the South Node of letting go, releasing in his 10th house of career. So let me repeat that for you in case it's confusing. There is on the ascendant of Nettanyahou, on the Sagittarius full moon of June the 11th, the energy of a square to the South Node in Virgo. And Virgo is where Nettanyahou has his midheaven or his career. Something may occur in the week of June the 9th to about the 15th to remove Nettanyahou from power. That is a prediction I'm willing to try to make, or he has some fall from his dominion over the Knesset or something like that. So there's a change in his power structures this moon can bring. South Node, surrender, let go, disappointment in his 10th house of career with his midheaven. Looks pretty bad for Nettanyahou and probably good for the rest of the world. Let's see how that unfolds. I wouldn't be surprised, and this is, I'm going to code this for you, if the nation of Iran doesn't find a way to cause harm, whether it's a scandal, blackmail, or physically, to the leader of the nation of Israel for retribution for many things still yet retributed, unretributed, unrequited retribution. All righty, that's what I got going for you. Well, that was a lot of world astrology. Do I have the energy at 4 o'clock on Tuesday the 3rd to do it without a martini? I think so. We're going to go through your sign. I don't want you to get panicky. You are not going to be an earthquake, a volcano, a stock market black swan event. You are not going to be a world leader melting wings, tumbling from power, or being targeted for some unaliving. You're just an everyday person like me. And so your story will be where you're going to have some grit, and maybe I'll help you find the grace. As this story plays out, you'll feel it starting to build on Tuesday, and it will kind of crescendo out by Sunday, Monday of, the following week, Monday of the following week. Let's get started, shall we? Okay, let's get going with you, Aries. And what we see here is this. Remember, it's a part of a synodic cycle that closes out in 2026. This started when Mars and Uranus joined together in our heavens on July the 15th. Something happening in July 15th is having its first testing, as Mars will sit in the sign of Taurus, Leo, and square Uranus in the sign of Taurus. I don't need a lot of this stuff going on in the backdrop, but I guess I'll leave it in case you're curious. I did cover the asteroids in the intro. If you need to know about it, watch the whole video. So Mars wants you to make some significant changes, and you might have some dramatic and shocking surprises connected to your children, romantic love partnerships, creativity, and entrepreneurship, where Mars is sitting in that 5th house. But at the very same time, you have a square to Uranus. That's where the shock and awe is also coming from. Now, it could be a bit of a financial surprise or a financial shock. You're a bit of a Pollyanna version, in the sense that with Venus co-present with Uranus on a wealth star as well, Algol, and a flood of wealth, Isis, in the sign of Taurus, the Earth, this is a kind of contradiction to what I said in the general reading, because I'd say that Mars can incite you to have dramatic action plans and decisions you must make because of some financial surprise that could indeed actually be positive, especially with the moon flowing from the 10th house of the sky. But I would add one thing to this. It would require that you do something Martian to get the money. And that is the house of competition, gambling, and gaming. So know your limit, play within it, but you could win a little bit of money on your scratch-off ticket. And surprise, it's not so shabby. You're not taking this too hard. This could be feeling quite okay. So again, Tuesday through to say Sunday, look for those kinds of surprises pivoting your life and asking you to make some decisions and changes because of it. I don't know that it's bad. I like it more than I don't like it. You know what I mean? And of course, we have the June 11th full moon, and it's spending the South Node. This is coming up on the 11th. Which will be a Wednesday. So on the Wednesday, that moon will literally, I should probably put the chart to Wednesday for everyone. So I get a little bit of the lunar story in there for every single sign. Why not? And so the moon is in Sagittarius, and it will bend the node, South Node, in the 6th house. There may be an opportunity to release, surrender, or let go of something connected to your work environment and your long range goals and dreams your alignment with your Dharma. You may be able to release and let go of some circumstance connected to your work or your job that you no longer desire, coming off the full moon on Wednesday. Hey, win the lottery, quit your job. That's a great example, but we don't know how long this is going to last. A full moon can unfold over 6 months and even 2 weeks. I have a full moon video already out. Go watch it for the Sagittarius full moon. Well, I'm moving by days, and that doesn't work. So let's move by our signs. Taurus, sun, moon, rising sign. Like, Venus is protecting you. She's the Lord of your sign in domicile. Relax, take a chill pill. You're not a global tsunami, world volcanic eruptions, and you're not a bad event in war story. So you're just you. And here we have Venus, and she's watching out for you and protecting you and giving you some good shit. And she's also connecting very strongly here, as you might notice, to Isis. Isis is the flood of the Nile River Valley goddess, a fertility goddess, and she's also, a good goddess. Nothing really too gnarly about Isis from Egypt. and she's with a shock of Uranus. So some surprise, it feels like a flood of surprise coming your way, maybe this week, Tuesday through to Sunday, gets more intense on the weekend. But Mars in the square is saying it has to do with property, home, land, and real estate. It's that simple. And so shock, surprise, is it positive or negative? Let me know when you have it happening. One thing about it is I could say that with Mars down here, anything to do with a lawsuit or any kind of legal action that you've been dealing with connected to property and land could work out in your behalf in a surprising way. You are favored here because of Venus. She's got your back. She's on her A game for you. And she does have influence in this situation. I like that Mars is the Lord of your seventh house of legal contracts and deals. So legal contracts, deals, property, land, and real estate shocks and surprises may emerge in positive ways for you in the week ahead. You're coming off a lovely Pluto square to Venus, really looking powerfully at your reputation and career and what you really desire in that area of your life, and chucking the rest, right? I don't think I'm going to do the moon all over again for every sign. It's just too much work, but you might be letting go of some kind of romantic love story. You might be letting go of some kind of entrepreneurial business. It's time to release and surrender it with a south node in your fifth house and the moon in your eighth. What you release will free you in this week ahead. What you hold on to will chain you. Let go of things that don't bring you joy, that no longer serve you. Let go of your entrepreneurial business if it's draining you. If an creative project is sinking your boat, get out of it. It's time to let it go. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is a sky that says you have this really intense window of time. Don't forget, there was a conjunction in mid-July. I should have said that for Taurus. Always go back to the seed of July 15th when Mars and Uranus joined together in Taurus, because now their opening square is testing that new beginning. And what it wants to offer up for you is some kind of pivot or surprise, some kind of change of the following areas: writing, communicating, social media. This is third house Mars. Matters to do with your neighbors and neighborhood. Matters to do with trips and travel opportunities, shorter distance perhaps. But with Uranus in the house of distant lands and shores and all of that, there could be a radical surprise to travel, an opportunity to travel, or some changes that are happening regarding travel that are surprising and unexpected. Mars here is in the house of people who are your neighbors, your aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, siblings, extended kinfolk. And there may be a surprise or a shock in the life of a sibling. And it may not be you. It may not be your story. It may be also their story. And you're on the sidelines getting a bit of wind of it, So don't make it all about you. It could be about somebody else. And for example, there may be an illness or a hospital event in the life of a sibling, and it's not your story, and you are on the sidelines. But if it is about you, watch out for fights with neighbors and surprising hidden enemies in the neighborhood. This would be like, oh my God, what do you mean my neighbor hates me? So hidden enemies in the neighborhood undermining you. No, you don't want to go for that. Be careful for that as well. Lawsuits from neighbors who don't like your planters. This is the frivolous stuff, but it could occur here as well. Like seriously, Mars is disruptive with Uranus, and it could disrupt income based on internet stories, but it may not be your problem. The internet is down, and there goes your website. There goes your PayPal and Stripe accounts while they try to get everything back up. I didn't even mention cyber attack, another possibility for a black swan event. So maybe disruptions to your income based on online sales, digital income, and revenue. It's too shall pass. This will be like maybe Tuesday through to Sunday. Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign. I shouldn't be so cheerful, should I? It's a disruptive energy, but there were seeds planted here in July, on July 15th. Mars-Uranus co-joined in Taurus, and this is the opening square to test the story. By the way, of course, Taurus is the part of your sky where Uranus still sits that has to do with great gains from your career, a sibling one older, pennies from heaven and windfalls and lucky wins, money coming at you from nowhere, long-range goals and dreams, and some friends, allies, and benefactors. A surprise, yay, a well-star Algo, Venus is there, protecting you, and maybe a flood of surprising possibilities in career gains, or pennies from heavens, or favors from a sibling one older, or favors and surprising benefits from someone in your social friendship circles who wants to help you. And it's connected to your earnings where Mars is sitting. Now, Mars is with that sky god and, Seal and Nunam, the husband and wife, mother, father, sky god. And maybe you're going to have some kind of really big energy of a windfall for a sky god in the house of pennies from heaven. Looks like a potential windfall may befall you. Mars rules the house of gambling and gaming. And is it yours because you took a chance on gambling? Well, I think you could try that. But if it's not that, maybe someone else, like a friend, ally, a benefactor, comes into some money and wants to support you or give you some of the money. You know what I'm saying? You may have a surprising, shocking need to cut and sever or eliminate something that in your savings, spendings, earnings storyline. You never know. You may have that kind of radical need to cut away from something, but Venus is so protective in the 11th house of those great gains from your career or the pennies from heaven. In a personal way, this is probably much better. Like I said, for the world, if there's a tidal wave, everyone survives. It's going to be a miracle. Everyone had a floaty toy handy. Venus will make good things from the bad things here. So that's what I got for you. I'm going quickly because this is like a refresher video. They're like the week ahead. Week aheads are supposed to be an hour long. Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is a sky for you that started in July on the 15th when Mars and Uranus co-joined in Taurus, your career house. So a lot of matters of your reputation, like, hey, I'm married, I'm single, I'm divorced, your social standing, your actions that are seen by others in the world, your career and ambition and success. That space has a new beginning on July 15th on a well star, which is good for you, thinking about the money story. And a flood of the Nile River with benefic Venus and Uranus could indicate a positive surprise is brewing this week ahead. But Mars is saying, oops, little need to take dramatic action almost instantly. You have Mars in your sign. You are like the warrior hero. You are the decider. You are the action taker. You are ready and poised to pounce in a direction you need to go in at a moment's notice with courage and bravery because you're, in Leo here. So there's a lot of pivoting motion here around matters of career, reputation, and for some of you, maybe long-term committed love stories and domicile. For example, this could be like, I'm announcing to the world all at once I'm moving in with my partner that I'm just dating. I mean, honestly, because Mars rules your fourth house. Major stories to do with home, partner, career, and you, and deciding in surprises and shocks in unexpected ways about where you live, about who you're with, about what your career's up to. All of these things are in play for you. I didn't really dive too much into it, but with the moon in your fifth house and the south node in your third, the moon might suggest that the full moon that's happening on Wednesday might suggest you want to let go of, surrender a way of making money. It's time to release an earning style. It's time to move into something that inspires you, brings you joy, and fulfills you as well. Keep that in mind as a backdrop story to the square. So, what about you, Virgo, sun, moon, and rising people? So, the thing I'd say here is that do you have an addiction, self-undoing bad habit? Where are you your own worst enemy? Mars is in that part of the sky, cuts and severs, slices through the dross, gets rid of the karmic shit from your childhood, your ancestors, and your past lives, helping you end, cut, and sever those parts of your story that don't work for you, Virgo. But at the same time, this week ahead, especially Tuesday through to Sunday, that building square to Uranus could be a really big breakthrough. It may not be a bad thing because there's a lot of spiritual energy in the 12th, and you may have a massive breakthrough because you have found a mentor, guide, therapist, teacher, or even join some kind of spiritual community that allows you to be, less of your own self-saboteur and more of your own success maker. I think that Venus is protecting the whole story, all said and done, because she's up there in her sign and she's looking over this sort of flood and shock in the ninth house. If it was something else, it could be like, oh, I'm going to get off to a university in a distant shore and I have to make a massive, pivotal, and fast moving decision to say yes. It could also indicate a change of home to another country. I mean, stranger things have happened, but making radical decisions about that possibility. Mars is a god of lawsuits, and Uranus is in the house of judges. So you might want to be a little more careful around that. Hopefully no one's going to try to be your hidden enemy and launch a little bit of a legal dispute at you, but Venus will protect you and it will work out on your in your behalf anyway. If you're working a job and Sun is in the 10th house of career, this could indicate, well, you could get some money from a father figure out of the blue because they're in a hospital, but you could also look at this as an opportunity here for human resources and headhunters to find you and offer you some kind of shocking, surprising shift of career. And there's another way it could show up. This will require some serious actions and decisions, but you have time to do it. Venus will be in your 9th house, sort of protecting the space from which all of this is emerging through till early July. You might have to let go of something to do with your family of origin, ancestors, patterns that undo you. The moon, on Wednesday says undo the family patterns, undo the lineage of self-destruction, and let go of aspects of yourself that you thought were crucial to who you are. That's another element of this moon as well, bending the south node on Wednesday. Now, let me see. Are you still with me? Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. It helps the channel grow, especially if you're in the live premiere. I completely forgot to mention this to you guys. And if you would like to join me in Sky Reader this July, mid-July to the end of August, come join me for summer school. I'd love to have you 6 weeks live with me, bonus modules, guest teachers, Facebook group, the works. I'd love to see you there. And don't forget to check out my career course on finding the real career in your chart. What do you want to be when you grow up? And we're teaching that class on June the 21st, really early in the morning, 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. Come check it out. You get the replay if you can't attend live, but you can sign up in the description box below. Now let's get back to business. I just watched a tarot reader and I like her, but she had an ad every 5 minutes. I don't mean the ads that YouTube puts out. I mean, she had a sponsored comment every 5 minutes for a product, So I kind of found that a little overwhelming. So I'm trying not to over endorse myself here as well. All right, Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. First of all, the energy of the square is coming off the summer, July 15th, when Mars-Uranus co-joined together around the same place in the sky that they now have forming a square to on a star called Algol. And one of the things about it is that whatever you seeded in your 8th house of chunky money back then, so that could be getting more money from sign-on bonuses, severages, packages, tax rebates, money you share with business partners, money that comes from investments in the markets. That's where you wanted to seed something for, some significant change and surprising developments. Mars-Uranus, shocking change. You put a seed in that part of your chart in July, mid-July, and the testing of that seed is now. The opening square starts off this Tuesday through to Sunday, and it may be many things. Now, this is interesting because Mars is in the 11th house of pennies from heaven with a sky god, Sila Nunan. I think Nunan is the sky god, squaring Uranus in a chunky money house. Yes, possibly you could come into some money off of this story. Inheritance is included, but you could come into some money. So some Libras may come into some money. End of story, simple, dead, done, finished with that. However, you have friends, allies, benefactors in your 11th, and there could be a shocking, surprising development or a conflict with them that comes out of the blue, especially if it involves hidden or secret love affairs. You may also have a sudden break or shocking development coming with a sibling one older than you, or even with your colleagues and coworkers. Now, it doesn't have to be all so bad, but there is something that needs to go on here that may look like conflict with those people, but it should work out in the long run. It does sextile you, and Venus is also in dignity over the 8th house, and it matters. It may be something going on in the life of a sibling one older or a friend, and it's their shocking life story that you're witnessing, especially around sexual infidelities and betrayals or money matters, especially investments. And you're like, oh my God, how can I support you? So it may not be your shocking story, Libra. It may be somebody else's. I mean, maybe with Zeus and wings melting, Icarus and stuff like that. A story could be emerging here. Zeus on the North Node, the boss in the workhouse. I mean, some of you may have some opportunity to leave your job. Your wings are melting there. This opportunity is coming for something new. And Mars might be the guy just cutting you away from that because he's in the house of the earnings or the gains of the career and he's severing. This is a severance package, for goodness sakes, or a sign on bonus as you get away from one career path and begin something new. Scorpio, back in mid-July on the 15th, a seed planting between Uranus co-joining with Mars in your house of marriage, in your house of long-term love, in your house of things to do with legal contracts and agreements. Now, what new thing started there? My son's a Scorpio rising. He got married at the end of July after this conjunction, a new planting of a relationship becoming legal. Now it's testing that in a first quarter opening square. So think about what seed you planted last summer in July, add a couple months to 3 months after. Now you're moving into the testing phase. And this is connected to your career and reputation. Now, because the 10th house is social standing, I'm divorced, I'm married, I'm separated, I'm widowed, all of those things. Unfortunately, this could be some significant marital tension that leads to some kind of shift or intensity around decisions you want to make about that relationship and your social standing, right? How you would tell the world you're in that relationship. It also could be cutting, ending, and severing of some career matter and a contractual agreement to that career, but it may surprise you. It may come out of the blue. Now, father figures could be involved in this shock or surprise, including some money coming to you from father figures. We see Clothos involved. We see the sun in the 8th house. For a very few of you, that story could be true. Not very many, just a few. From a general bell curve astrology, take what works and ditch the rest. With the moon in Sagittarius on Wednesday and asking you to bend the south node, there's a sense of wanting to let go of a work, job, and career path. And it may be connected to the surprising developments that are happening in your career. And you may find yourself suddenly, no longer employed, or maybe your boss is fired and you get to move on or change your position. There's a lot of change that may be shocking you or unexpected to do with matters of customers, clients, work and career gains and workplace matters, all bundled up together this week ahead. Ride the wave. Venus is in a good shape. All the things should work out on your behalf in the end. Again, a little bit of that could involve long-term committed love, marriage, and relationship. Turbulence. Whoa. All right. I don't know how that happened, but the whole thing just decided to go ahead without me. Yeah. You just saw it happen. Moving back in time. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. First things first, maybe I should say that there's a full moon on Wednesday and it's going to be at 20 or so degrees of a Sag and it's bending the south node. Are you ready to let go of something to do with your career or reputation? And are you ready to let go maybe of a relationship and announce to the world that that's no longer viable? That's one way that this could work out. And I've never said that, by the way, Sagittarius's life is a bed of roses in the last 3 years, as somebody commented, all astrologers are doing that. In fact, I said because of Jupiter in your 7th house, you could get divorced, separated, or unhinged with somebody in the last year. So I do tell you guys the real stuff, not just the flouncy stuff. In this case, this would look difficult. If your relationship was still there, you could end it. Okay. You like tell the world I'm done, or announce to the world you're divorced, separated, moving apart. That kind of stuff could happen in this kind of sky. I'm moving the whole desk. And then we have something you seeded on July the 15th, add a couple months, you planted a seed. Mars and Uranus co-joined in July, mid-July, in the sign of Taurus. And now the opening square to Mars is here. This is job, work, health, Taurus 6th house, right? Pets, rental properties, tenancies, co-workers, boss, servitude, indentured servitude, employers, employee stuff, maybe things to do with pets. So I said that pets and work and health. All right. So now we've got a shocking surprise in that part of the sky that I've just outlined for you. But Venus is trying to be protective. Mars is in an interesting place. He's in the Dharma house. He's in the higher educational house. He's in the foreign land and visa house. Now, there could be a kind of unexpected development, a little bit of a surprise coming up. You don't know what it is. Could be asking you to take a few new steps in a new direction, and you might make a decision. It could involve foreigners, foreign people, places, job and work, pets and rentals and tenancies. You may want to rent a property that has connections to foreign places or distant shores. You might be working on some kind of thing in the work environment, but you have to release, surrender, and let it go because now you've got a new direction that you're going to focus on, something more meaningful to yourself. Time to release and let go. But there's a shock here. There's a surprise. Go back to July, August, and think pets, tenancies, rentals, debts. Think job and health. Those are things that were going on July and August that are now taking a new turn as you move into alignment with a truer purpose and alignment with a truer dharma. But it may be sparked this week by a surprise. Father figures, mentors, guides, coaches, human resources people. Those folks are going to be ninth house, and they may be a part of what the surprise is. A sibling two older than you, two levels up, could also be a part of this story where the shock and surprise is coming from. Oh, court and legal matters and debts. So if you're in a legal battle, court battle, you may win, especially with Jupiter in your eighth house, but it would shock you that you're going to win because the house of legal lawsuits and disputes is at sixth house, flooding the Nile River. Venus protects you. Mars is in the judge court's chambers, and Jupiter says some chunky money. So if you're in a legal dispute that involves the potential to get money, you're going to be fine. That includes separation, divorce, and alimony, as well as visas and passports. It's too much to talk about. All right, Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising. Oh my God, my battery's slow. Give me a minute. There's no way I'm starting all over and patching this baby together. Oh, low battery on the laptop. Guys, give me a minute. I hate when I have to start a video, and patch two pieces together in my very debilitated iMovie on this laptop. Oh, okay. So Capricorn, first of all, it looks to me like you got to pay attention to July last year, right? On the 15th, maybe add a couple months for good measure. So what vibe you had about a new beginning that was being planted by Mars, change, Uranus surprising in your fifth house of in your fifth house of romantic and sexual love, as well as your children, creativity, procreativity, and creative projects and entrepreneurship. So that's some fifth house stories, right? And lottery tickets, winning money from gambling, right? So you planted a seed there in July. And now we have an opening testing in the house of chunky money under an income, money from investments in the stock markets. Now, this could be positive because Uranus with Venus could be shockingly you win the lottery, shockingly your stock doubles in price, shockingly you suddenly are able to take money off the table. This is a good story. I don't mind this one. Something could swell upward in your stock investments, not downward, with Venus in the fifth house in the house of her joy. So look for some investments that could take off. I hope that's what it is anyway, instead of downdrafting on you. However, when it comes to romantic and long-term love or your children, there's some surprises going on, and you may be hearing about that. And maybe money matters to do with children. It may be in your romantic life, secrets that are being revealed or uncovered, or a shocking, surprising opportunity connected, not opportunity, but change that's afoot to do with sexual, romantic love, intimacy, and surprise. Surprise. If you're dividing marital assets, then this is about the division of marital assets and good fortune favoring you. The full moon on Wednesday in your 12th house of distant shores and lands will bend the node of fate in the house of judges or courts or long distance travel or third marriages. And maybe you have to let go of something that you were so ambitiously wishing to see happen there in the ninth house. But, time to let go of that foreign country, foreign person, passport visa situation, court or legal matter. Jupiter favors you to win in legal matters in the seventh house right now and will for a year. If you have a long-term committed relationship in your life and Jupiter is in your seventh with Mercury, this favors your partner, your significant other, very, very much. And therefore, also just a reminder that maybe some of this stuff will have collateral connection to a significant other. And for example, if you wanted to win a lottery off of this, maybe you don't, maybe your partner does. They have the luck. You'll see that Venus and Jupiter are in a broad sextile. So, but there could be money coming to you significantly from another person in your life, a significant other of some sort, because they have a startling and shocking, surprising lucky break in their finances, especially if they're connected to foreign countries and lands from the one in which you're born. And that's what I've got for you. Let's keep on. This is not a long video. I'm trying to make the overview Monday videos an hour only. All right, I'm an Aquarius rising. This is for us. You can listen for sun and moon. This is a story where we planted a seed in the fourth house of home, property, domicile, real estate, and where we live. And we did this in July. And then we are going to now open up the first square. Well, in July, August, September, I knew this was going to move me along with the eclipses. So, for example, my landlord in March told me she was going to sell the house. So, spinning off of the new seed planting of home change, how many nomads are there with me? How many Aquarius risings have been moving since 2018 when Uranus entered your fourth house? This is ridiculous. So, I knew I would be moving because of the last conjunction between Mars, the god of change, and Uranus surprise. And it was a surprise that she was going to sell her place. She just raised my rent. So I thought I was good for another year or something. But no, she's selling, and that's okay. I'm ready to move. I already got a new place. So, in the context of changes to do with home that were seeded in July, August, what is it that's now fulfilling to the next level, but still has a surprise to it? Venus in the house of home, Uranus in the house of home, Isis flooding the Nile River in the house of home. This could literally be a flood. So be careful for flooding. Don't leave your taps on. Turn off, the water when you're away or whatever. You could flood something in your home. But if you're not having a home flood, the surprise can come from a significant long-term committed partner, or there could be a surprising break in a legal contract connected to property. Well, I don't know that my rental company can break the contract with me. I doubt that's going to happen because I'm renting. But because luckily Jupiter is giving me positive rental agreements. But you could find something going on like you didn't see a glitch in a rental contract, but you'll work it out. The surprise may be connected to your partner in the long-term kind of love house if you have a partner, right? Not everybody does. And Mars is also in the house of audience, client, and marketplace. Venus is goddess of prosperity and shocking surprise, especially Uranus, internet. Some surprising prosperity through audience, marketplace, clients, but surprising change needed. A change in the life or situation with a long-term committed love partner in particular, connected to home, property, land, and real estate. Mars here separates people. And if you're in a relationship, a surprising information news coming up Tuesday through Sunday of your partner moving into another property, separation from you, time apart. It's possible. It is a square and involves domestic life and partner and long-term love. Venus is protecting everything here, especially your home, especially what you do in the home. And so more or less, it still has a good outcome at the end of the day. Moving into the last but not least, best, but and the moon. Yeah, the moon is full on Wednesday in your 11th house, bending the 8th house node. Well, full moon could bring you pennies from heaven, windfalls, but it's also going to bend in the 2 weeks that follow the June 11th. You may win some money, come into some money. You may have some fulfillment of your long-range goals and dreams, and your career gains themselves. But it's south node bending. It's time to let go of some reliance on certain types of money, spousal shared resources, money from investments, money from passive income. Time to let some of that go as you pick up a little bit more hustle and start working more hard with more endurance and excitement and all that. I don't know, endurance and excitement for making more money, basically, with hard work. Oh, I got so many good stories to tell you guys on the outro. Okay, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising sign. Looks to me like got the, Mars-Uranus conjunction back in July and August. And your last but not least, Pisces, that this conjunction is asking you to look clearly at the seed planting in your third house for some change that may be radical, outside the box, breakthrough energy in the house of your local neighborhood. Did you change your neighborhood since last July, for example, or connected to your online presence or your social media or your writing project? What deep changes, surprising breakthroughs with a younger sibling, with love connected to childhood? What do I mean by childhood? The third house is your elementary school and high school years. Do you have love connected to that shocked and surprised you from the seed planting in July? I know a Pisces who got together with his high school sweetheart again. You got to be kidding me, right? So that's an example. That seed was planted in July. Now the opening testing square is here, and that's going to be coming from Mars in the house of work, debts, tenancies, and rentals. Simply said, is this new relationship resurgence for my friend going to be tested by finding a rental property, by matters to do with the work schedules between them, things to do with debts, karmic and real, pets? Somebody wants to bring a dog into the house, the other person doesn't want them. Testing 1 2 1 2. And maybe with this square, you could also have another story going on, a shocking surprise regarding pet matters connected to local neighborhood environment, neighbors and pets, situations connected to rental properties and neighborhoods, things connected to travel vis-a-vis work, and surprising disruptions, things connected to your health. And watch for rash, heats, and injuries here connected to the local neighborhood. Venus makes it all okay. I don't care if you break a leg. Venus says you got the best fracture they've ever seen, and they can repair it in 10 seconds, and you should be walking in a week. So be careful for injuries, though. If you're a Pisces on this one, absolutely be careful. Anything to do with injuries could lead to a surprise, but Venus will help you work through it in a timely manner. Heat, rashes, inflammation, infection, and injury are on the menu that surprise and shock you in some way. Keep that in mind. With Saturn in the second house of the face, the mouth, the teeth, some of that could involve those stories as well. My sister's going through that right now as a Pisces rising. Let me know how it goes at the end of this week. You'll feel this, surprise Wednesday through to Sunday, and disruption in a travel plan as well. Definitely, especially the travels connected to health matters or work matters. And that's what I got for you guys as well. Now, a quick outro here before we go. And I wanted to say, oh my God, this is a long video. Astrology is so literal. Saturn is the wise one, but he represents antiques, wisdom, sagacity, and things that are old. And he moved into my third house of local neighborhood venues, like, stores and restaurants in my local neighborhood, in the house of writing, my third house. And I ended up walking into, I was supposed to go to a yoga class with my guy, and I got the time wrong. We missed it. I thought I was off by an hour. So instead we went walking the neighborhood. I ended up in a used bookstore, Kestrel Books for my Vancouver people. And I went to their occult section, and I was like in a treasure chest of antique astrology books from an estate sale. These books are so precious. One goes back to 1929, astrology book, but also like classics in their field, Daniel Rujar and others, Alan Leo, and I could go on, and all from the 70s. These books are vintage first editions kind of thing, 1970s books by one person who owned them. And clearly they have passed away, and the family brought the books to the store. And so I have about 11 occult books. So Saturn, old, ancient, antique, wisdom and knowledge, in the house of writing and learning. I'm a teacher of astrology. I'll probably use a lot of this in my own book as research for my own writing of my own book in astrology. It's a treasure chest. And then the local neighborhood, right? Like I'm in the hood, I'm going to the local bookstore, and I find this antique treasure chest of somebody's estate, and I can even buy it on my corporate business card because I'm an astrologer, and that's a corporate expense. So yeah, and it was still a steal. I'm sure some of these are limited edition. I mean, I'm sure if I put this out on eBay or something, I'd be getting a lot more money. But I want this for the knowledge. So all you astro geeks out there, you're going to be jealous at some of these titles. I'm not going to pull them off my bookshelf. And the second synchronicity, so that is about I'll save the synchronicity for later, about the paintings for my apartment and stuff. But I want you to also think about, sometimes the planets are stupidly literal. Saturn moves in to the local neighborhood in my chart as an Aquarius rising. He represents antiques in the local neighborhood, or old things that have sage-like wisdom in them. And I stumble upon that storyline right away. It was really, really cool. All right. Keep that in mind. I guess that's just one way this can play out for the next 3 years in my life. But that's the first thing Saturn showed me. So I'm really excited by that. Share some of your Saturn in Aries stories so far. He's been here since the 25th of March. What has he done for you as he moved into one of your 12 whole sign houses? Like your marriage house, your career house, your house of children, your house of work and pets, 12 whole sign places where things are happening. Check my free PDF, the meanings of the 12 houses PDF in the description box below, and how to cast your chart in whole sign houses in the description box below, so you can use the systems to understand your chart better. Thanks, guys. Ciao, ciao. Oh, I got to get out of here.